Hi everybody, Jessie here from jessiebanks.com, and I'm thrilled to be here with a guest project for MFT stamps. I've loved my favorite things for a long time, and I was super thrilled when they contacted me. So I am using this Pure Innocence stamp called Holiday Cheer, as well as that big rubber stamp, which is called the Christmas Background. I pulled out these Scalloped Basic Edges 2 Die-namics, so that's an older die, but I use it all the time in my cards. I really like it. And I'm going to start by die cutting a piece of Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock down with that die. So the MFT and Friends feature happens the Tuesday after release on their blog, and I am so excited to be able to do this with them. I've wanted to guest for them for I'm just thrilled, you guys. I'm so happy. Anyway, I digress. So I started out, I had cut a mask of this little girl from the Holiday Cheer stamp set. And now I'm going to stamp her onto that panel we just die cut, and then we'll mask her out with that mask that I had cut previously. I am doing all of my stamping, like my black stamping here, with the MFT Hybrid Extreme Black Ink Pad. I use this one quite a bit for my Copic markers. It never bleeds. I think it's really, really good. The ink pad is nice and juicy. All my images are always crisp and clear. I really thoroughly enjoy this one. I've also used it with watercolor and everything, so it's a really good multi-purpose ink. So we're going to get her all masked off here with the mask. I just cut that out of some masking paper I had in my stash. Push that on really good because we're going to heat emboss right over top of this. So I am using this anti-static thing. I did it on the background paper, but I did put it over top of the image as well, or the mask, because I didn't want to stick it around the edge. So now I'm inking up this Christmas background stamp with some Versamark ink. So this is just a sticky ink, and it'll allow my white embossing powder to stick to it. I'm going to put that down on top, and then just a scratch piece of paper on top of that and rub it all out so that I can make sure I get everything covering the background, and I'm not worried about getting that ink all over my hands. So now that we have it, I am just putting on some detailed white embossing powder and making sure that that covers everything. So you can see how that goes right over top of the mask and everything, but once we heat set this here, like emboss it so that it gets shiny, and then I quit because I don't want to over emboss it. I'm going to do that right over top of the mask and everything, simply so that I don't have any loose powder around, and it'll come off nice and clear and perfectly fine off of the piece of paper, so we can color her after, so it doesn't hinder any of that. I just find it a really good way to do it. So I wanted a super soft background, so I pulled out the Distress ink, or this is Distress Oxide inks in tumbled glass, and this is just one of those brushes for doing stenciling and stuff. It gives me a softer look than the round ink tools do. I really enjoy using them. I have a bunch of them. I think I have 2 or 3 sets of them, but I use them quite frequently just for soft washes of inky background color instead of being quite as heavy-handed. I tend to get really heavy-handed with my ink blending tools, so this kind of keeps everything a little more light for me. And I'm just using that same piece of scratch paper that I used in order to push down the ink onto this. So I am going to finish this up, and then we're going to pull our little mask off, and you can see this is my favorite part. I love pulling masks off and seeing that real white image, and then all that embossing came right off on top of our mask, and it caused no issues. So now I'm going to jump into the Copic coloring. If you've watched any of my videos before, I use way more colors than anybody really needs to do, but we are going to start by coloring these all on and slowly blending them out. So I'm starting with my darkest color, which was my E04, and then I'm working my way down and through the lighter colors. All the while I'm going over top of those darker colors to create smooth transitions between everything. I think that's a big key in your blending, is going over top of the other colors so that they kind of meld into each other and everything looks really uniform and flat and just really pretty blended. I love it. I love Copic coloring. Like I said, I get a little extreme on the amount of colors I'll put in something, but you know, that's all right. So we're just going to finish blending out her skin here. I do go in and add some color to her hair after. I didn't worry about it at the start. I just colored her hair, or her face, in even underneath of where the hair is going to cover it, but we can deal with that after. Now I'm going in with my lightest color, so I'm coloring this almost a white, and I am using some of my N gray markers. So my neutral grays, they don't really pull cool and they don't really pull warm. I really like using the N series of markers. I have the N's, the W's, and the C's in my collection. I don't really feel like I need the T's, but I do use these 3 sets all the time, and they work wonderfully together, and you get that little bit of a contrast between them. So just like the skin, I'm starting with my darkest color, and then I am blending it out with the lighter colors as I go through. So we're going to an N1, and then the N0. So I'm kind of skipping, like I didn't use an N2, I just went straight to the N1. I don't need to have every marker. It works really well if you skip one in between, which just means less markers you need in your stash. It's kind of the way I look at it. So blending that all out with the N0, and then I'll come in with a little bit of colorless blender at the end just to blend it all into the white of that paper, because I do want to leave some of the white of the paper just so it doesn't read as like gray, it reads more as white. I just find it works really well for me. I will have all of the links to all of the items used in this card, all of the stamps and all that kind of fun stuff down in the description box below. So if you need to find any of that, as well as the MFT blog, my personal blog, my Instagram, all that fun stuff, if you're looking for any of that, you can definitely find it in the description box down below. So now I am going to work on her little suit here, and it took me a long time to figure out what kind of colors I wanted to use on her suit. I didn't want to make her like traditional Christmas red and Christmas green, and I didn't want to do teal because I always do teal, and I didn't want to do pink because I always do pink, or bright purple. I digress. I like very vivid colors. So I decided and I settled on this RV 99, 95, 93, and 91 series of markers. I do believe that's the numbers I used. The 99 to 95 is quite a big jump, and I do end up using the tip to tip technique in order to get that all to blend out. So we're just going to carry on working our way through that. You can see how I don't wait, like you can just do like her hat and then move on to her sleeves. And then the base of her body, I tend to do it all at once. I just find it easier while I have the markers out. So you can see here how I'm taking that lighter Copic marker and I'm picking some color up off of I'm using the chisel tip now. I will flip it around and use the brush tip of this RV99 marker, but I'm picking up some of that darker color on the tip of my lighter color just to help me blend it out and have a nice transition between those. I just find that the jump was slightly too large and I was having a real hard time blending it. This just makes the blending process a little bit easier for me. I have that marker slightly off screen. I'm sorry about that, but I'm just doing the same thing. I'm touching that light marker to the darker marker in order to pick up just a little bit of that color to get a nice smooth blend happening here. These Pure Innocence stamps are super cute. I find them absolutely adorable. Isn't she sweet with all of her parcels and bags and packages? And everything's so freaking cute. Now I'm putting that RV99 away. Now I'm blending out with that 95. So I kind of used that tip to tip technique as a marker in between. I'm still going to use just the RV95 by itself to blend that transition color into the rest. And now I have no problems with the rest of them. I'm just going to jump straight into this 93. And then the rest of it will be done with the 91, and we'll fill the rest of all of these purple parts out. Just taking my time. I do have this sped up to 2.5 times the original speed, so I am coloring super fast compared to how I normally do. I wish I was this speedy, but I'm not quite this fast. Now I'm taking a few of my E43s. I like to use these ones for hair. I reach for them all the time. You just kind of become, I don't know, it's a color I use all the time, so I just grab for them. It covers up enough of the skin, but you can kind of see it peeking through in person. I really like that look with having her skin colored underneath and not having to worry about making sure I fill it in enough that it's going to, that you're going to see white spaces in behind. I didn't want that. So now we're working on her leggings here, and I am using my BV29, so my BV20 series of markers, which are like a real purpley, gray, black. They're blue-violet markers, so they are purple on the purple side, but they have a real gray, desaturated color to them. They're not real bright and vivid. I use this in place of gray a lot of the times. I use it as a blending color, and with my reds, it's got lots of purposes in my Copic stash, so I tend to use them quite regularly. We're just blending out her pants and her shoes, well, boots, I guess, in this color combination, getting that all finished in. And you can see how she comes to life. The amount of color that is in that background seems to be getting less and less. It's almost like it's getting lighter. And that's simply because the way, like, the dark coloring and the fact that there's so much more color and saturation in the girl as opposed to the background pushes that background blue to the back and brings her right to the forefront and nice and forward. So now we're going to start working on her bags. So what I'm doing with her bags is I'm doing this one on this side in the BGs, and I will do I do believe I do the parcel on the other side in this exact same markers. What that does is it just allows me not to have too many colors on the front of this card by putting it in 2 places. Your eye kind of feels like it naturally fits there, and I didn't have to find 5 different colors that work really well in this project. So, because it would get really, really busy, especially with all of that writing and text in the background. I kind of wanted to limit the amount of colors on the front of on the focal image to not 5,000 colors, because I didn't want your eye jumping all over the place. So this definitely allows your eye to rest and see all those colors, and everything feels really cohesive and put together and purposeful. I find when you're trying to not have a real busy card, I love busy cards. I love 500 colors. I put all sorts of colors in everything. But with what I wanted in this one, I didn't want it to feel really, really busy. So this helped achieve kind of that calmness and feeling like all of her parcels belong together in a perfect little collection, and she's all happy carrying everything. I started off with that R29 there, and then I decided that that wasn't going to be dark enough, so I grabbed the R89. I do use this and the R59 kind of interchangeably as my darkest color in most of my red combinations, no matter which red markers I'm coloring, and then I'll go back into this R29. That R89 is just a real deep, rich, dark color that it creates a lot more shadow than the R29 would on its own. Then I'm blending that out with the R08 and then the R05. And I forgot about the parcel on the other side. I will go back to it. I get to the end here and I'm like, oh, phooey, I forgot to do that one. So let's get that done. So just going through the same Copic blending combination here. I loved this Christmas release. This Christmas release was amazing. I think everything was absolutely adorable. And I'm so happy I get to play along, so that's super exciting. Now we're going to come in here with our last parcel, and I'm going to make this one a yellow. So you can see how I kind of used your primary colors. I used a version of blue, a version of red, and a version of yellow. YR24 and YR23 I tend to use as my darks on yellows, in the similar way that I use the R89 and R59. It just gives it a little bit more depth to feel a little bit more like a shadow. Now we're going to keep blending that out. We're into the Y15, and then 13, and then just a little bit of the Y11. Now, I do believe I just take a little gray marker here. Yeah, I'm going to pull in this W5, and I'm just going to give her something to stand on. I darkened up the inside that you see of those bags, but I just wanted to give her something to ground her just a little bit. Lots of people don't like to use their Copic markers over top of their embossing. I don't mind it. I've never had an issue, but if you do, don't do it. That black pen, I just re-outlined the entire image. I tend to do that lots with all of my images. Now I'm just taking this Signo gel pen. I know you can't see anything because my big hand covers it all, but I have to hold that pen very, very vertical. But I'm just adding a few white dots just to give it a little bit more interest and some added little details to this pretty little image. So once we get through all of that, what's left? I think we just have to put her on a card base and add the sentiment. I'm really happy with this card, guys. I think it's absolutely adorable. Just lots of little white dots. I'm not covering everything, but I'm putting it in corners and stuff like that, either in groups of 2 or 3. Oh, I'm going to take, this is some purple twine I had in my stash, so I'm going to add that to the top with a little bit of a bow. I used to use twine all the time, and I've kind of backed off from it lately, and I'm like, I want to put twine on stuff again. So we're using all my twine collection, and if you saw my thread drawer, you would know that I could put twine on every card for the next 15 years and never run out. So yeah, anyway, new topic. Let's not talk about that. Just tying up a little bow here at the top. I just do it all freehand. I think I skipped on the bow this time. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, I skipped on the bow and I just tied a knot. So it'll just have the 2 little tails instead of a bow completely. Trimming that off, and we'll leave that up there. I have a top folding A2 size card base here, so it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I have put some foam tape on the back of this. I do add a little bit of liquid adhesive to my foam tape just to make sure that it's going to stick nice and solid and not come up off that piece of paper on me. And then I'm going to pull in a sentiment here from that same holiday cheer stamp set. It says spreading a little holiday cheer. And I'm just going to kind of tuck it in on the curve of that die cut panel that we created. And I'm stamping that again in the MFT hybrid.